Okay. Looks like we're a go. Neb. Hello. Can you hear me, Neb?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Okay. Got juice now. All right, cool. How was yesterday, Neb?
Yesterday, listen, I'll be honest, I'll catch up with the reading this weekend.
Totally fine. Yeah.
There's a lot of work, but I just love to show up and at least take some notes.
Cool. That's totally fine with me, man. It's a lot of work. So, I don't, quite honestly, as long as you got the playback link and you can get access, do it at your own pace and your own speed, because this is a lot. This is like, you would need 8 hours in a day to do all the work that I'm requesting of you to do. So ideally, we meet, we talk, we discuss, we set for the next day's agenda, then you go out and do your thing. And if you don't get it all done, just remember to go back and get it done. You know what I mean? So,
sure.
Nothing major.
Yeah. See, I plan, I don't know, in the discussion, revenue share is a big part of my business right now.
Yep.
So I try to go to 3 events a week.
Yeah.
Where I meet agents, at the same time also where I learn stuff. So that takes time, you go into events,
Yes.
2-3 hours, come back, following up with agents. And then I also use that to get referral for commercial leads.
That's right. Yeah.
Like the residential agent, they don't want to deal with commercial. Hey, I have CoStar, I can help you. We can partner on the deal. So I got a couple of leads like that I'm following up with.
Awesome. That's cool. How do you maintain 3 a week?
3 events a week?
Yeah, how do you maintain that?
Or for example, I went to an event on Tuesday, which was a commercial contract class for residential agents. It was 2 hours. And then I'm going to Instagram for real estate agent at a title company. That's another 2 hours today. It's 1 to 3.
Okay.
And then a happy hour event that I'm going on Friday.
Okay, cool.
Networking event.
And you have those consistently set up week to week?
Minimum 2, yes. And I just started doing this year.
Okay.
Consistently. Last year I did it, once, like every other month. I was traveling also the whole last year.
Yeah.
But this year I'm doing it consistently, yes.
Okay. So you have 9 events a month. Are those 9 different organizations to where you're going to each one once a month, or how does that play out?
They're completely different organizations.
Okay.
Like, it could be a board event, it could be, MLS event, title company event, lender event, or just networking event.
Okay. Cool. I like it.
Also, if I run out of stuff, I do open house. I go to open house.
You do? Now, when you say open house, do you mean on the residential open house, or do you mean open house for commercial?
I haven't seen an open house for commercial yet.
Okay.
So I'm talking about residential open house.
So, I don't know how they do it in y'all's part of the world. Hello, everyone. How are you? We're entering into day 4, so rock on with that. Neb and I were just having a discussion about how he gets business, and he goes to 3 networking events a week, which would be 9 different organizations a month if you went to each group once a month. So on that, Neb, on that open house thing, so let me tell you how the commercial works. We call it usually brokers open, or you'll get flyers to come tour a space, right? So what that usually looks like is the owners and developers, not as often the listing agent, they will hold the same thing in what the residential world is called an open house, right? So what to expect at those other commercial brokers, right? And the deal is it's part of their marketing plan to lease the space. They'll have nice high-end food, and they'll usually, when you leave, give you like a swag bag or like a $50 gift card, or sometimes straight up envelopes with cash as a thank you gift for coming and touring the space. So get on those lists for all your local developers when they have open houses to get invited to those, okay? Get on those lists. I don't know whose phone that is, but somebody is upside down and sideways. Hello? There you go. So, is that how do you pronounce that name? China. Hey, there you are. How do you pronounce your name?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Good morning. It's Tina Yap. You can call me Pauline, which is when I'm in the cloud.
Okay.
As well.
Awesome.
So, that's my first name, but Pauline is mine.
Okay. Pauline, I'm looking at your ceiling right now.
Oh.
There you go.
Sorry.
Well, now you're sideways. Turn it the other way. Turn it the other way.
This way?
Yes, there you go. Perfect. Yeah, just like that. Yeah, just leave it there. That's beautiful. And if you could also put it on mute until you have a question. I don't know if that's on your phone or on the other thing, then that just keeps background noise out of the way. Cool. So I digress. Sorry. It happens a lot, Pauline. So they'll give you cash for showing up and looking at the space. And here's why. It's cheaper for them to pay you for showing up when you can bring a tenant, and they're going to have a whole bunch of money from that tenant, right? It's just the cost of doing business. So they're like, yes, bring us the tenants in our space, and we'll pay you money for touring the space. So go and immediately ask the developers to be on the invite list for the tours and when they have brokers opens. Okay? And then you'll get firsthand information as to who is building, who is developing, who comes to those networking events, meet other brokers that are doing transactions and all that kind of stuff. So get on that, because that is amazing, and that will help Neb in his 3 meetings a week. So that's actually part of what we're going to talk about today, so that's cool. Did everyone do the homework from yesterday? Probably not, but it's okay, because I told y'all this course is fast-paced and there's a lot of work to do it, and I don't expect you to get it all done every day, but just know you're going to need to at some point go back, re-listen to the things, put it into practice. If it takes you 120 days to do the 60-day course, so be it. If it takes you 6 years, you probably should get out of the industry. But so we're going to talk about module 7.1 and 7.3 and talk about what we're going to do today. I actually have to go, so we're probably not going to be as long as we were yesterday. Yesterday, my feed cut off about the 40 minutes. That won't happen again, so don't worry about that. I apologize. We were wrapping it up anyway. 7.1 and 7.3 is what we're going to go over. That's your homework for tonight and go over today. We're going to talk about to continue to drive your territory. Hopefully now you've kind of started to see different locations where there's commercial properties in your area, how big your market's going to look, what your market looks like, what tenants are in there as you're calling your people. Contact 10 people from your sphere of influence, okay? Write down 5 phone numbers, web addresses, email addresses to contact about vacant space. So again, touring your area. Like I said, go get lost, because that's the best way to start looking at properties that you may not have even known that they were there. If you can't find the owners, go to your local tax record, go to your MLS. They usually have a tax record. Search systems like Reonomy, CoStar if you have it. You can hire a skip tracer if it's really that important to you. Some people do that. The investors do that. Not so much from what we're trying to do. But couple things that I think are important here when we're talking about information sources and where to go for your sphere of influences is the database that you are currently using. Do you have a CRM that you're using currently? Anyone? And if so, what is the CRM and how are you utilizing that aspect for your business?
No CRM for me. Trying to see if I can use conversion. I haven't jumped ship yet.
Okay.
I have KV Core that I had kind of set up for doing residential a while back, but I'm actually looking at building out my own CRM, just like an Excel, just something.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
LaDonna.
Yeah, I just have KV Core. I had it with my past brokerage.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't really taught well to use it.
Okay.
I actually paid someone in EXP to set it up for me. But that's all residential. So
yeah.
I'm looking to definitely do something different with commercial, but I don't think KV Core is geared towards for a commercial.
You would be 100% correct here, and here's why. And I actually talked to Dave about this before joining. I was like, look, your tools and resources that you have available aren't really set up for a commercial practitioner. Like KV Core may be great. I don't know. Quite honestly, I don't know how to use it. I mean, I've seen the results of it. I know what it does systematically, but I've never used it. So, and the reason being is because it doesn't, I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, by anybody jump in and tell me I am, but I think what happens is it connects to your local MLS, and then it builds a marketing platform based upon that information or something like that. So you can do like
Correct.
drip campaigns, and you can do like Facebook ads and all that kind of stuff, which is that's a phenomenal tool. But the fields that are in there may actually work against you in commercial. So I know on some of those computer program templates, they'll say like they'll automatically have a field for bedrooms and bathrooms. And it'll actually say bedrooms and bathrooms. And if you put in 0, it just looks dumb. So, because it shouldn't even be on there. So I think that KV Core needs some work if they're going to use it on the commercial side. I haven't seen any positive results on the commercial side. That doesn't mean that there aren't any. It just means I haven't played with it enough to like figure it out. So I don't use that. But what I do use is I have my own company Facebook page, right? And then I run ads. I will post properties that I have for sale, and then I'll run ads on that post, which could achieve the same results, right? That's what you're trying to do, is get your properties in front of people, or get in front of people to advertise a service that you have. And you don't really need a KV Core type operation to advertise on social media things. I'm not saying there's not a value there. I'm sure that there is. There's just not a value right now for us in what we do. But there is, and I don't use this. And by all means, over the next 56 days that we're together, any company that I talk about or whatever, I'm not endorsing their products. This is like the legal disclaimer. I'm not endorsing the products. No one is paying me to talk about them, unless if, of course, they are paying me to talk about them, like sponsored by Death Wish Coffee, just so you know. I had to throw that in there. All right. But all the, like, unless if I specifically say, hey, I'm a representative of this company, they're not paying me, endorsing me. There is a commercial CRM that integrates and does the marketing stuff for you. It's called Client Look. Client, C-L-I-E-N-T, Look. They are the best commercial real estate CRM is what their tagline is. I don't know, kind of expensive. But they do have a lot of customers that, you would know. So a lot of big firms use that. I've never used it, quite honestly. There is another one. Let me see. And the name escapes me, that I don't use because I did the trial offer, and then they were like, they hit my bank account for a bunch of money, and I was like, no, you can't do that. I didn't even say that I wanted it. Anyway, Rethink CRM is good. Apto, APTO is good. Here's what I use. I have a custom built program called Cloze, C-L-O-Z-E. And the reason why I have that is because it integrates all of my social media platforms, all of my email addresses, all of my texts, all my phone conversations, all of my meetings into one location, and into each person has a file. So just by the ways of us communicating individually, it automatically sets up a file under your email address or your name. So then I add you to whatever category that I want to put you guys in. So y'all may be under commercial brokers or what have you. I add you into that category. So whenever I have a listing that I need to send out, I automatically send it out to that category. And I've been doing that for like 16 years. So my database is like 60,000 people. So that keeps me kind of busy. So every day gives me an agenda. Like today I have 25 items that I need to do. I think I pay $19 a month for this service. So it works. It tells me when the last time I communicated with someone was. And that's depressing because sometimes, like, I'm looking at a whole list here of people that I haven't communicated to in 9 or 10 months, which is kind of bad. Mainly because if you do the math and you're supposed to connect with each person 18 times before they stick out in the front of the brain, that means I would have to contact like one person every 6 seconds every day to get that done in a year, which means I only get to contact people once. So it's impossible for me to keep up. So that's why sometimes, and I was gone for like 6 months out of the year last year. So that's why it's hard for me to keep up with a lot of people. So I do apologize. I try to get better at it, but I don't know. I'm not the best. So I'm not the shining example of follow-up. Actually, that's probably my weakest part. I know that. It's follow-up. I try, but to no avail. Anyway, you gotta have or start forming a CRM with categories and what you want to label each field specifically to your business plan.
You said Close. Is that your personal company? Is it a customer? How is
Yeah. Good question. No, Cloze, CLOZE.com. It is not my company. I just pay their service each month. It's about $20, I think. It's kind of like, I'm sure y'all have all heard of Salesforce, which is a great, I messed around with that. But you got to be like a tech engineer to like really be able to use that service. I thought it was a little bit overkill for what I needed. And I still had to input a lot of data. Well, the thing about Cloze that I love is it gets all the data for me. So anytime I communicate with anyone, it tracks it, which is phenomenal. So I'll know how often people have talked. That would take me 1 billion years just to track that data. So that does it automatically for me. And it's the only CRM that I know of that tracks social interactions, which, if you're paying attention to the changes in the real estate industry, you'll know social interactions and cloud-based technologies are the wave of the future. And so you kind of want to get in front of that now. So that's kind of why I started doing it, as opposed to data entry points that will be eliminated in the future by an algorithm. So might as well just jump on the bandwagon and get integrated in with it now. But anyway, get on that. You need that.
$20 a month. That's awesome.
Yeah, right? That's what I'm saying. $20 a month. Yeah, like, I don't know what price that they are at now, but I'm going to see if I go online and see what they're pricing it. Oh, see, I got to log out to log back in. But if somebody wants to go there, it's CLOZE.com, and then they'll be able to tell you the prices and all that kind of stuff. But I literally think I paid $19 and something a month. So
$19 a month if you pay month to month, $17 if you bill annually. It looks pretty good. I'm going through it.
yeah. So, and you can customize it. You can give the clients each name. So, like, I have, whenever I go to send an email, like, I'll do it right now while we're on the phone. Okay, so here's an email to Maya. Maya's last interaction, and she opened the email. It also tracks open and close rates, so just know that. She opened the email May of 2019, and the title of the email was Checking In. And I'm just letting you guys in on all my entire secrets. So if you ever get an email from me and it sounds really non-personable, just know it's a canned email that you're getting from me and you're part of the system. So, enjoy. But, so the email is called Checking In, right? Okay, so she opened this May 10th, and it just says, "Hey, hope you're doing well, Maya. Haven't talked to you in a bit, so I thought I'd reach out. How are things going?" Okay. She opened it. She didn't respond. But I have her listed as an active broker. So now I just go into the emails and I pick the email that I want to send. And what I do is I have 12 emails in my email can folder that basically, they're not all salesy, right? So this objective isn't to sell. This objective is to stay in front of the people. Whether it's, hey, happy birthday, that should be 1 email a month out of your 12, right? A communication or an anniversary or something like that. Or, hey, your lease is set to expire. Let me know if you need help reviewing your lease. Make sure your expenses are right. So here's my list. Long time no speak. That's the first one. The second one is checking in. The third one is how's it going? The fourth one, I talk about other activities that I'm doing. The fifth one is asking about social media. Are we connected? And in that email, I'll list out all the social media links and platforms that I have. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. And then I start getting into if they're not responding by now, then I go into, hey, got a minute to chat or set up a Zoom meeting. So I'm trying to go a little bit further, like, hey, stop ignoring me. And then the next one talks a little bit about other stuff that I'm doing. And then I go back to checking in. And still nothing. Then I set up a meeting for coffee. And then the 11th month one is like, hey, what's going on? You know, is this email still good? I haven't heard from you. Am I annoying you? Do you want me to remove you from the database, etc.? And then the last one is, okay, it's been fun. It's my exit interview, basically, right? And that's kind of like, that's my system. Now, ideally, every month I would send out one of those, but that's not what happens, as you can just see. I didn't send that out to Maya since May, so I just run it in a sequence. So that was checking in. So the next one that she would get is, how's it going? And then I just work that system, right? Okay, does that work? Yes, it works. This is like why I don't prospect. I know this whole class is right now is about prospecting, but this is why I don't have to prospect, because I've already done this. So now I get people responding to those emails, and they're like, so this guy named Mike Cunningham, I sold, weird story, Baltimore City in the 40s used to be known like worldwide for pigeon racing, like honed pigeons, right? So they would leave Baltimore and they would fly down, the pigeons would fly down to like Newport News in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and they would race. And then they would come back to Baltimore, and I don't know how these pigeons know how to do this, but they would train them on how to do this, and then they would have like big trophies, and then it was kind of like horse racing. Then you have like pigeon bloodlines that are like, anyway, it's dumb. Anyway, would have these big buildings that housed pigeons, and they would have pigeon racing clubs. And so, as you can imagine, the pigeon racing phenomena isn't around anymore, but the buildings are. So Mike says, hey, can you sell some of these buildings for me? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I sold one of them a couple years back, probably literally 5 years ago. I sold a pigeon racing club with a liquor license, and I sold it to a German soccer club because the Germans wanted the liquor license, they wanted the warehouse, and the area had a huge grassy area where they could build a soccer field. So I was like, okay, cool. So I sold that for him. Never left contact with him. Haven't talked to the guy in probably years. Sent him a system update, and he responded back, hey, I got another pigeon club building I need you to sell. Now, what did that cost me? Well, if you take 60,000 people and divide that by $20 a month, that costs me what? A half a cent in a prospecting, right? The commission on that's probably going to be 15 grand. Not a bad return, right? So have these databases built organically and continually doing that may not seem like it's going to pay off now, but it does pay off in the future. So that is huge when it comes to being able to talk to other clients and say, listen, I got a personal database of 60,000 people. This property is going to get in front of. I mean, literally, the question is, how big is your database? That's what it boils down to. So,
do you link all of your accounts to close?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, and here's the beauty part. If you leave other brokerages or you leave whatever business operation, because it links the email server, it won't give you 100% access to the previous email, but it'll give you enough snippets to say what the email was about and who it was to, and that record stays with the contact. So even if you leave your company or whatever, that contact stays with you independently, third party, so you never lose track of anyone. which was huge 15 years ago. So, like I said, I've just been a data hog forever. And some of these people, like literally, I get some of these and I'm like, oh crap, I haven't contacted this person in 3 years. Like, what am I doing? So, things to think about, learn from my mistakes, stay in front of the people, have a way to constantly stay in front of the people. And so even if they're not doing business with you now, doesn't mean they're not going to do business with you in the future, or that they don't know people that are going to be doing business in the future, right? So, and it integrates with all the social platforms. So you really can't go wrong with it, in my opinion. Okay. So that's what we're talking about with your sphere of influences. Let's look at 6.1 and 6.2, which is what the last thing the other day I asked you guys to do. I don't know. I just heard a beep going off, so hopefully I'm not cut off again. All right, so 6.1 is a great thing here. I don't know if y'all are with me online or not, or if y'all printed off your books or all that kind of stuff, but 6.1 is this. See 250 people, which sounds monumental, but see 250 people. Here's what I want you to do. By the end of this class, I want you to be in front of 250 people. How do you go about doing that? Well, let's go through it together. We want you to meet them face to face. Begin a computer database for each record and the person that you meet. We just talked about that. Concentrate on making contacts in your territory with buyers and sellers of your product type. These are the people you'll be doing business with from now on. Okay? That's key, step one. As you're driving down your area and writing down these phone numbers and contacting your sphere and doing all that work that we've been talking about up to this point. Now we're talking about, okay, keeping track of the record and the contact information, labeling who those people are, what properties do they own, what businesses do they own, are they the decision maker? Integrate that whole list of 30 questions that I gave you on to ask the people for the prospecting. Get those answers, put them in the notes section of those. Find out who the person is, he or she owns, his business, her business, partners, environment, what she works in, what's important to them. Find out about properties and begin to build your files in detailed information. There is a CRM that integrates more with property owner information that's called Prospect Now. That's kind of expensive, and I don't know if it's worth it. I don't think it is, but you do you. Prospect Now. Find out about properties, begin building your files and information. You may want to know size, conditions, lease rates, when the last renovations were, who the tenants are, what the rental rates are. Again, those county appraisers and economic development people may have some of this information as well, so stick with them. Above all, approach each meeting with the long-term relationship perspective and leave a good personal impression so you can return to do business. Always do that, and always try to make it like a working relationship once you land the meeting. Don't come in there with, you know everything, you have all the answers. Come in there with, hey, what is your need and how can I help you solve that problem? Make it a working relationship. That'll go far. In most cases, you won't be able to get all this information during the first meeting, and instances where you uncover immediate business will be rare. That's just the truth. But if you achieve the last goal in each case to leave a good impression, you'll be able to return at a later time to do some transaction business or an ongoing consulting relationship. So how do you begin meeting 250 people? Ned is doing it by doing 3 a week. But in order to meet 250 people over the next 60 days, you have to have a plan. And a system for finding these people and getting in the door. And the next module, you will find a number of different approaches that have been used by successful salespeople to get in the door. An assignment to meet 250 people may strike you as an overwhelming task, but it's actually not. Neb, I'm going to use you as an example. Out of the 3 meetings a week, how many people a week, new people a week, would you say you come across?
5 to 6.
5 to 6 new people a week.
Well, I mean, not just shaking hands and stuff. 5 to 6 having contact information. Belly, contact information. At least a minute conversation with each.
Okay. There you go. So he has a plan and an approach to do that. We got to get those numbers up to get in front of more people than 6, but it's a great start. First, remind yourself that meeting people. Go ahead.
Okay, so I have a question about just the conversation, like the practical conversation that you have. I've been working with, have one client that is in the office building that's trying to move into a retail space. I have another client that is going to be trying to be opening up a pharmacy. And then my one and only experience, but it was my first transaction as a real estate, was
Cool.
with a commercial retail for a restaurant. And so all that came to me via Instagram, and then the other 2 were also via Instagram, and one was for my husband.
Were those paid Instagram ads, or was that organic?
Organic.
Okay, cool.
It's organic, yeah. So, not because I was posting commercial stuff, but just a friend referred her, and then she found so she just figured, hey, maybe she could help. So, ended up working well and all that. So my question is, my sphere of influence is not necessarily, it would be probably in the medical area, but what I'm saying is most people would be like, oh, I want to buy a house, or so how do you necessarily create these conversations? Because I know I can have both conversations, doing both residential and commercial, but how do you organically just talk to them? What are you actually talking about? And then also the second part of it, the caveat that I'm coming up with is a lot of people are new startups. So they're like, oh, I want to start business, or I have one, they want to expand, or, for example, the pharmacy, they're pharmacists now, they want to. So my role that I've been seeing is, I don't know what to do. I'm not dealing with a big Samsung or whatever. I'm not there yet. So
Yeah.
I'm coming from a place where some of them don't even have. Another person contacted me once at a bakery. He's making cakes from his house, but so they don't even know. It's like, so I'm starting from like 0.1 or step 1, which is like, do you have a business plan? Do you have business funding?
Yeah.
So how do you try to how are you talking to people that are already ready, or if you are not, how do you kind of generate them? Because my passion with the commercial side is I love business, and I like just the same way, I like home, but I like business, starting. I'm passionate about the small business owners. Let me just put it that way.
Okay.
Not to say I don't want to work with the Starbucks eventually, but so I'm coming from that place. I'm like, and I don't know how to, how can I, number one, make money that way?
Sure.
Facilitate that in a way where I'm being valuable to make it fast. Otherwise, I'm just doing free business consulting, and that's not really, I don't know. My question has a lot of layers to it, but I'm just telling you where I'm at. So
yeah, no, this is good. It's all good.
The question was clear, but I'm just trying to find my flow with this because I'm getting somewhere, and then they're like, well, I don't know if I'm ready, or let me just wait, and I'm like, okay, is it because I'm not providing enough value, or I don't know how I'm supposed to facilitate these. The first one, they were ready though, so that one they already had a business plan.
Yeah.
It was just literally finding a space, and making them have realistic expectations of what they could get. Because at first they wanted like $1,000 space, and I was like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not gonna happen. But they ended up getting it, so it worked out for me. But the rest, they're like, yeah, I want to do it. They're serious, but it's just like, I don't
Yeah.
know how I'm supposed to be, because I don't want to be a business consultant, though I don't mind doing that, but I'm not really a
So
business consultant, you know?
yeah,
Okay, I'm done.
no. So a lot of questions there, but I will try to answer them as best as possible. The first thing I would say is you need to first qualify your clients and be able to answer in a short amount of time if this prospect is going to turn into. I'm looking at your ceiling again. There you go. There you go. If your prospect is going to turn into a actual closed transaction. So if you look at, I'm going to pull it out here. There was a sheet in there and it was called numeral, right? So that should be in the link that you downloaded. Needs, urgency, motivation, expectations, resources, approvals, and loyalty. That should be on your very first conversation with that prospect to see if, in fact, they're even able to, in the future, close a transaction. If you have questions, there is, behind that numeral, there's a list of questions, literally. And this is just part of role playing, which is what we're going to do tomorrow. So you kind of jumped ahead for me about scripts and getting in front of people and what questions to ask. But here's what I do. If somebody calls me up, hey, I want to buy a bakery, because you mentioned baker, right? So I want to buy a bakery. Okay, cool. Have you ever owned, leased, or invested in commercial real estate? That was a question. We're role playing here. We're gonna do this. Me and you. We're gonna do it. Can you hear me? Yeah, I hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Oh, I don't know what's wrong with my phone. I can't hear really well. Sorry, I'm trying to
right.
disconnect my Bluetooth.
There you go. So,
Okay.
all right. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna role play it. Have you ever owned? You're the client. Okay. Have you ever owned any commercial real estate? Invested in it?
No, I haven't. I'm just, starting up. I don't have any experience in that, no.
Okay. So have you ever spoken with a lender or a broker, an attorney, anything about a potential location for you?
No, I just saw some stuff online, I drove around. I saw this place that looked really great. I think it's a great location. And, it's just I think it's going to be really great because, I live in, the Pearland area, and I think it's going to be great. And, I just really want to have a storefront because, that's really what I would like.
Awesome. So, do you have any, specific zip code or any location or anything like that in mind, right now?
Yeah, just anywhere in the Pearland area. So, 11111 zip code would be fine.
Awesome. Okay, cool. And if I was to send you a list of 10 properties in that zip code, and let's say some of them were 600 square feet and some of them were 10,000 square feet, where does your budget kind of lead you into a square footage kind of basis?
Well, I have no idea. I don't even know where, what the normal price is. What's the normal price for, a space? Because I don't need that big of a space. I'm just trying to open, eyebrow. I have an eyebrow beauty business. So I'm trying to location already that is in an office building. So
Yeah.
I don't need that much space. I don't need that much, don't need that much space. So I have no idea. What's the market value? What's the normal price for that?
So depending on the location, whether it's a storefront or if it's in a secondary market, that's going to depend on the price per square foot. So it really kind of depends on where that property is and what type of property. So if you're in a downtown area in that 111 zip code, that rental rate may be up to $30 a square foot. Now, if you're in a secondary location, maybe a second generation location, that rental rate may be $19 a square foot. So what I would recommend us doing is let's review your business plan to see how much money you can afford in rent, and then kind of start the location process from there. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, okay. Okay, got it. I think I have like a little business plan, so I still need to, okay, that sounds like a good plan.
All right, cool. So what I would do is if you don't have a business plan, I would go to sba.gov, and they have business plan templates that you can go there and download, and you can start working toward this business plan. Being that this is a first location, any landlord is going to want to see your business plan, and as well as any of your finances or grant approvals, or any way that you can show them that you're actually going to be able to pay the rent. They're probably going to need a guarantor. So once you really have that business plan fine-tuned, let's grab coffee or lunch or somewhere, and then we can kind of review that together, and I can look at it from a landlord's perspective, so I can let you know what any potential landlord is going to want to see. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
All right. Well, that's exactly how I do it. I mean, that conversation is what I have with tenants all day, every day. And sometimes I just tell them straight up, whether that's a lease or a buy. Look, you're just not ready.
Right.
You just don't, like, I had this conversation last night, and I was just like, look, you're not ready for it, because you don't know what size building, you don't know what your potential income is for your business, you don't know what the business in that location that you're going to move to. I always tell my students, if someone's looking at the rental rate as their main point of reference in a location, then they're looking at it entirely wrong. And here's why. If I'm representing a Chinese restaurant and I put that Chinese restaurant in a location where no one's buying Chinese food just because I got them a good rental rate, all I've effectively done is put them out of business slowly. Right? I haven't done my client any value. So I always say, if your business is going to expand because you're in a better location, but you have to pay $2 more a square foot for that, from a percentage ratio, if your business is growing at a higher rate than what that expense is, you're actually making more money by going to the more expensive place. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of conversations that you have to be able to talk and walk through. So it's not necessarily, you're on the right track. It's not necessarily with like pricing or what are the rental rates. It's really like knowing business and having business sense and knowing, okay, look, you don't want to go here because no one is going to generate that business. Now, there's a whole CCIM 102 class that talks about market segmentations and location quotients and all that kind of stuff. And it's way too much to get along into here. But just know there's a systematic and mathematical way to approach and putting the client where they're at. And the big players know this, the Starbucks, all that kind of stuff. And so there's ways to do that. But you just kind of want to talk to your clients and talk through them. So ask them those questions, and that will help start that conversation. That's the big thing. Ask the questions, stay in front of them. So when they're ready to pull the trigger, if they're ever going to be ready to pull the trigger, then you'll know how to do that. So,
okay, great. I really appreciate that.
Sure.
So what you're saying is, I saw somebody put like, a feasibility study. So what you're saying is that's a whole other course that we wouldn't have any kind of, because I mean, I'm from the area, so I have an idea. Of course, I don't know every single market to the minuscule micro markets and all that, but I'm like, oh yeah, this is a pretty good, you have also common sense real estate. But what I'm saying is to be able to determine that this is a good location. It ended up working out for my client because, the one that we did close, they're getting a lot of traffic. It was next to a major road.
Yeah.
But in regards to just like I said, where you kind of have an open range, or You know, is there a specific way to target that, or is it just, you know, if you're not able to do that class that you just said, the CCIM, is that something we're going to learn too, or
So
not
yeah,
today in general?
well, so I mean, yes, we can. That's not necessarily part of the class, but I'll be happy to get to help you out. Maybe it is a lot more in depth if you want to send me an email or set up a time outside of this. So, you know, or we can get into it. Doesn't matter to me. Whatever you guys want to do. But yes, there is a way to do that. There's several approaches to take, but in short, what I'll tell you is every business. When they file their taxes, they file with an SIC code, which stands for Standard Industrial Classification Code, which is basically a Social Security type number that the government gives you as a business that categorizes what kind of business you're in. Okay? So, if you wanted to know what the SIC code, you would just Google SIC code lookup. Okay, Standard Industrial, if you go to OSHA.gov, that's the website I'm on right now, enter an SSC code or enter the search keywords. So let's say optical, right? And you hit submit. Let's see what happens. All right, SIC codes are, and it breaks it down all the way down to repair shops and related services. So if you had an optical repair shop, that SIC code is 7699. Okay? So if you click on 7699, repair shops and related services, not elsewhere classified. So these are, if you do all of these things, awning repair, beer pump, coil cleaning and repair service, bicycle repair shop, blacksmith shops, boiler cleaning, bowling pins, refinishing or repair. I mean, you name it, right? So if that's your business, you're going to be in the SIC code 7699. Now, to determine if your repair shop is going to have enough business in that area, then you would do a retail gap analysis to determine how much people spend for that repair shop annually in that given market. So if you have 100,000 people and 100,000 households, not people, because that's a different mathematical equation. Let's say you have 100,000 households and each household spends $40 a year on the repair. Well, that's $4 million in that market just for repairing eyewear. Okay. Now, if there's only one other repair business in that area, their market share is 100%. That means that business total is about, you're not including in any absorption or leakage, which is businesses coming into the business coming into the area or business leaving the area. So you're assuming that, and this is a wrong assumption, but I could go off on a whole nother class as to why what I'm telling you right now is wrong, but it's the way that it's taught, so it is what it is. You're assuming when you're calculating markets that it's a closed market, but in today's society, we are no longer a closed market. So we're assuming that it's only $4 million of business in that zip code, okay? Mm-hmm. With one other operation. That means if you move in, you're that business zip code, you can assume that you're going to collect 50% of that market. That's $2 million of market share in that one zip code. If you operated multiple zip codes, you would multiply or do that same analysis in every zip code or market segment where you're operating. That's how they determine how big is their potential market. So now they say, okay, well, now I know my business annual volume in this location will be $2 million. I would base all of my expenses and profit and margins off of that $2 million figure.
Right.
Is it profitable? I don't know. Depends on how big your market is.
Right.
That's what I was saying about the rent rate.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I just talked about had nothing to do with rent rate.
Is that how you got into the business of working, with churches?
No, but it's not how I got into business working with churches. I got into the business working with churches because both of my grandfathers were pastors. My wife is a pastor, so I grew up in the church, and like, in the literal sense, and being around church buildings and all that kind of stuff. And then I got into real estate, and then the church industry in the United States is on the decline, and so you got a lot of big churches with a lot of space that is what we call shadow inventory. And so those churches contact me and they say, Scott, can you help us out with our building? And I try to design ways for them to be profitable and to stay keeping their lights on. And sometimes I can't, and the best way to do that is to sell the buildings and have other businesses an opportunity. That's how I got into churches. Was from my sphere of influence, is what we were talking about. Yeah. So it just so happens I'm a real estate guy and they need real estate help. That's literally how it is. And now other churches come to me because the church community is small and they're like, hey, Scott, can you help us? So, yeah, that's how I do it.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow, thank you so much. That was at least gave me some kind of idea, because I always wonder how they came up with these flyers and they say, "Oh, this traffic population, this, that," and so I want to provide that from on the other side, because that's obviously from the listing side. I'm like, I don't know where they got these numbers from.
Yeah.
But, and to be able to, of course, I utilize it, but I mostly, to be honest, utilize Common Sense Real Estate because I'm from this area, and just you just use common sense, but it's just like, how do I actually provide that value where this is the amount of money that is in the market, so it can just be in one, so that's a process I would like to learn. I don't know if anybody else is that I would like to at least have I know we can't do it for every,
So there's so like in Maryland, which is where I'm from, we have, if you go on your state or local website, and you type in traffic counts, they usually have traffic volume maps. So if you want to know how to go about getting traffic counts, as a CCIM, I have other ways to do that, but as a CCIM, they get all that stuff. But let's see, the entire 2018 Maryland traffic volume map is available as a PDF file. So there you go. That took me all of, as long as it's going to take for me to download 9,000 pages. But that
went on Google. You just put Google.
I just Googled traffic count. You can put it in wherever you are. And
the market value in regards to the 4 million that you just said, because I was wanting to know, what are your competition?
Well, here's the thing, Wes, that's misleading. Traffic count doesn't always equate to people stopping and spending money.
Right.
It just means that
the value. So you said that $4 million in the optic repair. How did you find that number?
I think I just pulled that out of the air.
Oh, okay.
That was just using that as an example.
Okay. But there's not a way to directly find that.
Yeah, right. There is. On census.gov, there's a way to tell you that.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Census.gov.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so that was great conversation. Hopefully y'all weren't bored. Hopefully y'all found some use out of that.
I'm sorry, guys. Thank you so much.
No worries. Moving into tomorrow and what I need you to do. I want you to read modules 7.1 and 7.3, which is 7.1 is this is great. Observe first listing calls. Second 2, observe second listing calls, which you're probably not going to be able to do first and 2 in the same night. And then observe, offer presentation. So you can probably, I don't know, find out this information somewhere. But we're talking about once you get that contact, they say, yeah, we actually are looking to list our properties. Why don't you come in and do a presentation for us? That's kind of what this is. Hey, look, there's your cat. Barb's cat's back there learning some good stuff too.
Can
So-
I add something real quick?
Yeah, Neb, go ahead.
Okay. There's a couple of sites like for Barbara. In fact, I was gonna DM you. There is Arbor Realty Trust, and I think they're a lender. They give free webinars on multi-housing, and after you take the webinars, they send you like the presentation, which is very good information to add to your packet when you meet a multi-housing client.
Yes.
And that's it's free, and they get, they email you weekly, or I think every 2 weeks, phenomenal information on multi-housing, like rental information and just beautiful data. And then I also subscribe to a thing called BizNow.
I'm sorry, what was the name of that? You said something Realty Trust. I didn't catch the beginning.
Arbor Realty Trust. It's ARBOR Realty Trust, and they're pretty good. I think they're lenders. I don't know what they are, but I don't know. I like their webinars, and it's a lot of information. And you can text me, and I'll send you, or I can forward you an email of the stuff they sent me. And the other one that I liked also is it's called BizNow. Have you heard of it, Scott? BizNow.
Yeah.
They're pretty good, and they give very good information. They have I think they also have local.
Yeah, you can set it up so it's delivered like local information. So like I get one every day, one for Baltimore and one for DC.
Exactly. And then there's the last one is, which I also like, is Commercial Property Executive Daily, which I also subscribe to that. And I mean, there's just a lot of reads. All these reads, I kind of help us in answering some of the questions that Shania, I was asking also.
Awesome.
Thanks, Neb.
So here's what we're doing.
Thank you.
No problem. Read 7.1 to 7.3 in your action track for tonight about getting familiar with listing presentations. Tomorrow, we're going to go over those phone scripts that we talked about yesterday that you should be starting to write information about yourself, about what you do, your company. Remember, not too salesy. Introduce a conversation is what you're trying to do. We're going to do a couple of those tomorrow if time allows. And your homework, continue driving, writing down names and numbers, vacant space, develop and hammer out that script, and start researching your CRM database. All right? Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Thank you.
Okay. Awesome.
Appreciate it.
I'll see y'all tomorrow, same time. Be good.
Thanks.
All
Have a
right.
good one.
Bye.